What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the download queue. This is episode 33. We're back. Throwing it back to the old days, though. This is a one-man show. As far as I'm aware, Kyle's out fighting zombies in Black Ops 6 or being mugged by Destiny players. I have no idea, but he's not here today. So you're stuck with just me. Probably a shorter episode like we used to do back in the way early days, if anyone has been here since then, which I know you haven't, because it's just an us thing. But yeah, this week, Black Ops 6 beta is out, which has been primarily the thing. PAX is this weekend, so people are getting an early access on stuff from that. Not us, but be sure to check out your creators. They're at PAX or attending demos. There's been a bunch of panels. There's been an interesting one I suggest you all look up from opening night with Andrea Renee interviewing Phil Spencer. Phil Spencer, blah, 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 which was really interesting to listen to, kind of just going through games that defined his career, which I thought was a fun topic. Some interesting stuff came up. Phil mentioned, I'm sure if you're on Twitter, you've seen, Phil mentioned how at one point in time he had the opportunity to exclusively sign Destiny back in the day when that was coming out, Destiny 1. Which isn't wild to hear, considering their history, obviously, with Bungie and Halo and all that. But just to hear that, like, that was something that could have happened, and then the history now of Destiny 2 coming out and now being exclusive to PlayStation, or not exclusive to PlayStation, but being owned by PlayStation now. How the times have changed. Um, Also, at one point in time, they had the opportunity to sign Guitar Hero, which is just wild, and how drastically different things would have been if that would have happened. That would have been massive income and just huge boost on Xbox side, I feel. So yeah, just an interesting conversation. Obviously, Phil's been around much longer than 20 years. Like, it's 20 years of PAX this year. But Phil was at Microsoft before Xbox was a thing. He came into the gaming division. He was helping sign deals back in the day before becoming head of Xbox, and now just Microsoft Gaming as a whole. So if you've been an Xbox fan, definitely an interesting read, I feel, or interesting listen. It's about an hour, roughly 55 minutes. So, but yeah, as mentioned, keeping on the Xbox train, this week has been the closed quote unquote beta for Black Ops 6. If you are a Game Pass member on Xbox, you also have access to it. This is the first of two weekends. First weekend started on the 30th and will be running till September 4th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then on Friday, September 6th, it'll kick back on again till Monday, September 9th. So you got two weekends, technically, if you're a Game Pass member. Let me pull up my stuff here. Excuse me. Yeah, two weekends. First weekend, this one will be capped at level 20, which is okay. Leveling seems very fast. I think in the few games we've played, we're already level 9 about. It's almost every game or every other game you're getting a level, so not too bad. Progress for weekend number 2 will carry over, and the cap will be level 30 to give you a little bit more opportunity for unlocks and the barracks and weapons upgrades and how all that works, which I'm still kind of learning myself. But yeah, Black Ops 6. This is obviously the first one under the Xbox umbrella proper, so all of when this properly launches, this will be no sort of skins exclusive. There's not going to be exclusive stuff on console or platform. They're making it just walls down. This is duty as a platform across different brands. Um, we know from court filings this isn't the first one to be on Nintendo, but starting next year, I believe Call of Duty will also be equal releases on Nintendo platforms, which will be interesting to see how they sort of have that play out. This will also be the first Call of Duty, and I think, honestly, since they started the machine of every year back with Modern Warfare originally, This is the first one they've had 4 years to work on. It's usually a 3 year cycle between Treyarch, Infinity Ward, and Sledgehammer. So this is a 4 year cycle for Treyarch, which I know a lot of people are hyped for. For me personally, I have more nostalgia, I would say, for like Modern Warfare 1, 2, and 3, just because that was such a prime time for me as a young teen playing games. And uh, I lost my train of thought. Sorry. Um, More nostalgic as me as a kid, but Black Ops 2 was really probably my favorite moments from Call of Duty. That's was the prime time for me and my friends in Michigan. The birth of JX3 started there, and we really just stuck on Black Ops 2 for years. We stuck on Black Ops 2 well into even the Xbox One generation. Like, Black Ops 2 was our jam, was really our highlight in gaming as a group. You know, it was the nights back then, everyone was on at the same time, everyone was together. We were, yo, I'm out of school, Jeremy's ready, Jeff's off work. Like, this was our time to really just get good game memories in. So coming back to Black Ops 6 now, it's felt great. Black Ops 3, I know a lot of people didn't really like. Um, Black Ops 4 was super solid for me in my history. Multiplayer, not too much, but their first sort of try with Warzone. They had Blackout back in Black Ops 4, which was really awesome. I really enjoyed it. I've written about it and talked about it a few times. But Black Ops 4 with Blackout for me felt like old school 360 gaming days, like old Halo 3 lobbies. You would queue in and you have sort of the pre-match uh spawning area and people hanging out, whatever, as it's sort of building the match. But people were really communicating and trying to squad up and plan tactics and do all this stuff. And yo, that was a great match. I'm gonna add you as a friend when you're on next. We'll get back together. Like, it's something I hadn't experienced for a super long time. So having it in Blackout, just super fun memories. Again, the map was great. I loved the item system. It felt really good to play. I never got into Warzone because it's after Black Ops Warzone Duty started to lose me with the movement changes and stuff like that. So Blackout was really my last hurrah. Dabbled a bit in Modern Warfare 2 remake, nothing major. It was okay, and I haven't really touched any since. Like, Black Ops 4 was really my last, yo, I'm playing this daily type thing. So Black Ops 6 coming in, I was interested just with everything around it again. With a Microsoft acquisition, they have more time to make it. And then it comes out that, hey, we have this new movement system, this Omni movement system, which, if you're not aware, it sort of gives you a full 360-degree, like, slide dash jump thing going on. It's weird to explain when you see it in person, though. You can, if you're running forward, you can at the drop sort of dive straight 90 degrees to the left or right to get out of fire, and it gets you that lower angle. Obviously, you'll see people sliding through doorways, and it felt really intimidating leading in marketing. Was, again, that's sort of where I stopped playing Duty, was because of the movement, how reliant on stuff that I just didn't want to keep up on it was. So I definitely came into this more skeptical than anything. And I'm happy to say it didn't really affect anything in this beta time so far. I've only gotten a couple matches in, again, level 9. But so far, and it could just be, I'm sure it'll change as the life of the game goes on. But really, it doesn't seem to be something you need to rely on to do good, which is exciting for me. It is definitely a factor, I think. But at least for me, I'm still able to go in and play like I normally do without having to rely too much and think ahead about taking those sort of angles and taking those sort of dives or backwards dives. It's not really a game changer. Which again, I probably towards the end of the life and as time goes on, it probably will be. But by then, I'll probably be playing other games, so it doesn't really affect me right now. You'll see some of it here. I have on stream Kind of Funny's stream from Call of Duty Next. They sent out Snowbike Mike to play. Got a good 4 hour stream in, so obviously go check them out. Awesome footage to use. Mike's just great to watch. With this first beta weekend, if you're hopping on, there will be 8 multiplayer maps and game modes, which will trickle out over the weekend. So they're doing sort of staggered releases of these, which I'm fine with. I believe the full launch will have 16. So for the first weekend one, you will have 4 core maps and 2 strike maps, which I believe is the smaller like 2v2 type stuff. But the core maps are Derelict, Scud, Skyline, and Rewind. Which Scud is probably my favorite of the maps so far. It is a 6v6 core map. Takes place at a military outpost following a devastating missile attack. It's sort of the one, if you've seen, that has the big, crashed radar in the middle of the map. That's really cool. A thing with these maps I really like compared to the past couple games that I mentioned, they're small. They're not as wide open as they've been, and you can get from point A to point B really fast. They're not as wide open and like feel empty as they have been, I feel. These ones, it you can very much see the classic sort of 3 lane gameplay design they've had come back. So that's been really nice. Uh Derelict is another good one in this first weekend. It is sort of the one, if you've seen, with a bunch of train cars, train derailments that takes place in Appalachian Mountains, abandoned train graveyard. That's got really cool. You can kind of already see the heavy flow zones, I feel, in the pathways people will be taking. I always like seeing back in the Halo 3 days, you could pop onto Bungie.net and see sort of like the hot maps of where people are getting killed the most, where people are rotating through the most, where people are interacting the most. And I've already on this map, if I was able to pull up a mini version of it, I feel like I could pinpoint those exact paths already. It flows real nicely. Not a lot of it's outdoors, but with the train cars derailed, you get a lot of tight corners and it feels kind of claustrophobic at times. So that's real cool design. What's another one? Rewind here is another one that is in a shopping plaza. Essentially, there is one side of it, depending how you're looking at it. The left side is sort of a whole strip mall that goes through a bunch of little stores. Then in the middle is a movie rental store, old school movie rental store called Fast Forward. Sort of the red and white theming throughout. And then across the street is kind of an L shape, and on one side has a fast food chain. You can go through the dining hall, behind the counter, through the kitchen, out the back, and kind of work your way around back to that shopping center. This one for sure is one that brought out those old school vibes for me again. Obviously, the burger chain back in the old ones, Burger Time, Good Burger, whatever the hell it was, became a meme, and you'd get emblems and charms about it. I feel like this one's kind of throwing back to that. And then Pit is probably my least memorable so far. I don't even know. Looking at the images, I don't even think I played it yet, honestly, as I say that. So, yeah, I think honestly I've just seen those 3 so far. Pit reminded me, it was a Modern Warfare 3 map because I played that recently getting ready for this that it reminded me of. Um, And weekend one, you have team deathmatch, domination, hardpoint, kill order, face off, team deathmatch, and face off kill confirmed. Kill order is similar to, I forget what it was called in the older games, but it's a high value target thing where one person on your team is sort of marked as a VIP. You get extra points for killing them, so try to keep them alive as long as you can. Uh, Weekend two, you'll get a new map called Babylon, as well as the four before and Stakeout and Strike game modes. I can pull up Babylon here for you. Is Battle Amongst the Ruins, Babylon, where crumbled, crumbled. What kind of word is that? Pillars are now vantage points, and danger lurks around every archway. This looks like a version of a Halo 3 map where in the center of the map it's sort of a meeting ground, but there is the four sort of hot zones around it are pillars sort of directing flow, so you can come directly into the middle of the map and have a little square to fight in. Other than that, the map's just a giant circle, essentially divided up by these pillars. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. And that'll be it for the beta. Um, Only one new map. In weekend two next week, you'll be getting gunfight mode and face off kill order, which I'm sure gunfight people will be happy to see. If you're getting in, there's also rewards to get. So depending on your level you achieve in the beta, level two, you'll get an animated emblem. Level six, you will get a charm. Level 11 will be a spray tag. Level 15 will be an emote. And then level 20 in weekend one only will be a skin for an operator, which is sort of the has a trench coat on. It's orange, but the new skin you unlock sort of a neon green one. Level 20 in either weekend, you get a gray version of that. Level 23 in weekend two, you get a loading screen. Level 27 in weekend two, you get a calling card. And then level 30 in weekend two, you get a blueprint that sort of matches that neon green skin I mentioned earlier. So some unlocks to get for actually playing, which is nice. Um, I don't think they've said if your progress in the beta so far are carrying over to the main game. I don't think they are, but that's yet to be seen. But overall, having a really good time. Um, I could pull up here on the side. Kyle's been having a real good time with this so far. Uh, I've been having a blast. Like I said, it feels more natural to play, and I know I'm just rambling at this point, but that's what we do here on the podcast when Kyle's not here to lead the charge and help us switch between subjects. Um, yeah, here it is. He posted a good clip on this is that train yard map I mentioned earlier. Oh god, the volume. Sorry for that. Like I said, the Omni movement, I'm happy it's not as required as I was expecting it to be. I've mentioned it before, but I feel too old to be playing multiplayer games now, which is dumb to say at times because I can still hold my own like Halo 3. But it feels good. It feels like a natural follow up to Black Ops 2, which I'm happy to see. I'm interested to see how over time the gameplay requirement sort of shifts. I know with the newer ones, it becomes a requirement to have certain weapon blueprints and you have to be running certain things to keep an advantage and stay on top of things, which is where I really sort of start to fall off. Uh, but we'll see. Again, there's so many other games this year. I'll be interested to see as time progresses how much I actually stick with this because there is so much coming. Uh, Black Ops 6 launches fully October 25th. In October, too, though, and stuff I'll be trying to keep up with. AstroBot's out this week at the time of recording, September 6th, which I'll probably be done with by then, so that won't really hold anything against it. Silent Hill 2 Remake is out October 8th, which I'm super interested in to see how the team holds that and brings that back. Metaphor Fantasio, I'm sure will have a hold on a lot of people. That is the new game from the Persona team. Super Mario Party Jamboree's out October 17th. Not going to really hold anything against it. But we'll see. Unknown 9 Awakening is out, which that is coming out as sort of an underdog in the sleeper game, I feel. This is the game we've seen before. I forget what showcase we've seen it at earlier this year, but you can sort of possess enemies and bounce between them and set up them shooting each other or shooting bullets in their direction. Super stylized. It reminds me of Forspoken, the PS5 game that came out earlier. That's same sort of realistic art style. As you can see here in the gameplay, she's sort of pulling people into like explosive barrels to knock them out, control this enemy to attack his own teammate. So a lot of cool gameplay stuff I'm interested in to see. One of the more less talked about ones I'm excited for. On top of that, we have I'm looking at my list here. Dragon Age: The Veilguard on Halloween. Super excited about. I've been off of Dragon Age since the first. I tried Inquisition a bit, but this new one seems a more at heart sort of experience and not shooting for that super realistic, super serious, super more hardcore tone. It looks like a more fun time. November Slitterhead, if you're a fan, Silent Hill fan, this is from their original creator. That's coming out right afterwards. Assassin's Creed Shadows is in November. Genshin Impact coming to Xbox in November. Stalker 2 finally launching in November. And last but not least, Indiana Jones in December. So even with Call of Duty coming out, there is um, a lot still on the back end that not necessarily going to pull away from Call of Duty's player base because that's always top selling, top played every year. But for me personally, it'll be interesting to see where I stay or stand with the game after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2, 3 months down the road. Am I still returning to it like I have been for X Defiant, which has been a struggling game, and there's been reports that the live service plans for that could be canceled if they don't get player numbers up, which is sad to hear. But it'll be interesting to see how a multiplayer game like Duty, if it's able to pull me away nowadays. I've written about before, we live service games are continuously fighting for your time and eventual money and investment financially and with time. And I have stuff like Fortnite I'm returning to. The new season's really cool with the Marvel stuff, although it's super aggravating. I have Sea of Thieves on the side that I return to regularly. That's not getting updates as often as it was, but it's still a world I super enjoy returning to and coming back to and experiencing new parts of all the time. Uh, if you've listened to the last week's episode or watched the streams over on Twitch, I have World of Warcraft breathing down my neck now, and returning to that world has been an absolute joy, which I see myself enjoying that more than anything. I see myself sticking with uh Warcraft more than Duty, which is just how things roll. So as much as we are enjoying Call of Duty right now, it'll be interesting to see how we stick with it once it's out and available to the masses. Again, with the Xbox acquisition, this will be the first one in Game Pass day one. I know they're not really marketing it, but if you are a Game Pass subscriber, it will be available to you. So jump in if you are interested. Other than that, this week it's really just been World of Warcraft. Still having a blast. The community is still as alive as ever. I made a trip out of town this week and watched the Warcraft movie again. And as bad as that is, it had me just as nostalgic for these characters and excited to be in the world, as different as those are. As far as the War Within goes, I am halfway done, I would say. We have finished the Ringing Deeps, so we're entering Hollowfall. The last stream we did, the last time we played, I ended it entering that zone and kind of seeing what everyone has been hyped about. There's been a lot of talk online about that zone distinctly feeling different than the others, and I can definitely see that. Um, I'm excited to explore. It's got sort of, if you've seen any of the gameplay trailers or gameplay at all, it's the zone with the sort of crystal in the center that overlooks everything, and I think it's on a 3 hour timer. It changes from this sort of bright sun beaming crystal, breathing life into the lands. Every 3 hours, it gets corrupted by void magic, I believe, and becomes dark and purple, and a eerie glow is sort of cast along the zone as you play. And I believe that changes certain mobs that spawn. I know there's rares that change as that changes. So I'm interested to see how that ties into the main storyline, because it seems to be the one that is most upfront of being tied to the overarching storyline and where we're going. And then after that, I have the Nerubian place. So Ashkahet, I think, is the name of it. So that'll be interesting to see and how that play pans out. There has been it's funny, but it's dumb. Uh Sort of, now that the game's out for everyone. Uh Ashkahet is the name of it, yes. For everyone, my buddy in my old guild, Echo, who has been starting up again, didn't get into early access, and now that he's finally able to play, I message him like, "Hey, how are you enjoying it? Got to get up together, do questing, something, dungeons together." And he's like, "It's great, except I'm being called poor by early access players." I was like, "Oh, that's dumb." And then a day or two later, I've seen on Twitter that like it's become a meme that's evolved into an actual like very 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 small hate campaign. Which, if you're even doing that, you're dumb, and let people enjoy games at their own pace. But people that were in early access are starting war bands essentially in the open PvP mode, and hunting players that are trying to level now who weren't in early access and behind, which is a weird thing I didn't see happening for this game. Like, yeah, WoW's been built off PvP to a point, but like having that be a deciding factor just seems goofy. So, if you're an early access player, help out your fellow characters joining in on the war within instead of becoming another roadblock for them, I guess. But yeah, it's still been a great time. Some updated looks, I guess, on stuff I've experienced. I've enjoyed how they've handled professions in this, which I don't know if that's a Dragonflight thing, because again, I've skipped out on Dragonflight. Um, but for like cooking, especially, before I remember it being, hey, get these random food items from drops and mobs in the land and buy some spices from a vendor to get your cooking level up. But now it's become, hey, you can. I have herblore as my one of my primary professions. It's like, hey, you can sort of grind the herbs you're getting, which in the past were mostly just for alchemy. So herblore and alchemy went hand in hand to make potions. But now I can grind those herbs I'm getting and turn them into parts for my cooking recipes and kind of level those up together, which is a nice change of pace. And then once you get, I think it's five of the same cooked recipe completed, you can combine those into sort of mini feasts that become large meals essentially for increased HP gains and buffs in the back end and stuff like that, which has been really cool to see. It's a different take on it that I've enjoyed. Questing still super solid. The way the Ringing Deeps ends leaves you on sort of a cliffhanger of Magni Bronzebeard and where he's been and his sort of I'm a crystal phase that he's been in and talking to the soul of the planet itself. It leaves that on a cliffhanger, so I'm excited to see where that changes. Side quests have just been equally as good. Nothing's quite hit on the one I mentioned earlier in the podcast. Uh, with Kyle last week, I think it was that all the news sites are finally talking about the hits on like dementia and mental health and stuff. That's still been kind of the biggest side quest line I've seen, but the rest of them have been enjoyable. I still like how they've diversified how you can get progress in the side quests outside of basic kill 10 of these, collect 5 of these, do this 10 times. You can sort of pick and choose how you want to do that in zones it has predetermined. So, hey, this place is infested, gives you sort of a zone on your map of where that quest can be completed in, and there's 5 or 6 different things you can do throughout that sort of brings the progress bar towards completion, so you don't feel as hard headed into the classic MMO tropes, which is in every game, sadly. But it's still been a fun time. Um, WoW in general has been such a mainstay in my life for almost 20 years at this point, between my breaks and everything, that talking to Tim, who's been on the podcast before, he used to play, and friends I met through him, and reminiscing about the past and thinking about it, it's been meme to death of, oh, it's an addiction and this and that, but it's really been a game built off of, as I said before, community and the friendships you've made throughout. And I was, God, how old? I must have been, I'm pulling it up, 2007. So I was like, yeah, 13, 14 when I started. And being thrown into this world with millions and millions of people, and I can still go back to the first guild I joined on the Antherhorn server. If you were a member of Loth and Lore in the past and remember any of us, people that I've never physically talked to but had connections with over the years. Our guild leader, Bright Arrow, who is a paladin, his wife was in there, Roseanne Rogue. Um, Hange and Monis were best friends, I remember, and I believe they were like a mage priest group or a warrior priest group that played together, and just sort of building these friends over time and questing with them and doing dungeons and doing group activities with them. And then them all sort of falling off when we break away, and I come back for Legion later on, and I have my new guild, and that new group. There's only about 2 or 3 of us that still play, but I have them all on Facebook. I've kept up on their daily lives, and we have our Facebook chat together that we peek in and out of every now and then, check how everyone's doing, and it's been something that's evolved beyond what the game is, but has been the backbone of the game at the same time. That sense of friendship and community and exploration, really. Returning to that's just been a sort of closure feeling. So I'm excited to play more and get to sort of the end of the storyline as is until the next patch hits and whatever, however they handle that now, since they're sort of releasing content at a faster rate, will be interesting. But that's really been all I've had time to play, which not a bad thing, but we're really heading towards the fall season and review season and big games coming out again. AstroBot will be out this week, which I'm planning on streaming if I can, if that works for me on PC. Streaming sort of a whole gameplay journey of that because I really love that little guy. And seeing all of the PlayStation throwbacks and memories and everything Team Asobi's sort of been able to throw into that game, I fully expect that to be a sort of secret game of the year contender and honestly winner. I see it being sort of the It Takes Two of this year, where that game was, hey, this is a co op game that couch co op only type thing, but it goes beyond what a co op game could be story wise and becomes an emotional setting for the game. I feel Astrobot's going to really sneak in this year and get a lot more Game of the Year nominees and awards than we're expecting, and possibly taking home the whole thing at Jeff's show in December, which will be interesting to see. And what that does for that sort of old school 3D platformer genre as a whole, and collectathons even. It's been an argument on the Xbox side of, oh, people don't want a new Banjo, or Banjo wouldn't succeed nowadays. Where I think Astrobot's really shown the exact opposite. Like, there is a community for that if you do it with care and love and treat it with the respect that it deserves. I feel like there is a large enough community to have that genre sort of come back. And it's come back in the indies. Um, Super Lucky's Tale was okay when it came out. A Hat in Time was sort of the big indie darling, like back, what, 8, 10 years ago now. That was really by the numbers, bringing back what that was. A bunch of the original Rare team released Ukulele, and that's getting a remaster this year, which I'm excited to play again. And those games really captured that essence and gameplay style of the 2000s and early late 90s, really. So I think that argument that there's not a fan base for it doesn't really hold up as much as people think it does. And Astrobot's been a prime example. Hey, this game that is pre-downloaded on every PS5. Yeah, it's a cool way to get people's foot in the door and experience it to a point if they want, but that doesn't make them fall in love with it, right? It doesn't make them fall in love with the character of Astrobot and lead it to getting its first big game. Astrobot was first revealed to us back as a PS4 tech demo, and you could shake him in your controller and hear him bounce around, and they would talk to you through the microphone. And then he was in Astrobot Rescue Mission, which was the PSVR tech demo and what you could do in VR, and the PS5 tech demo, which great, but now he's getting his own standalone, go out, buy the disc, $50-$60 release, 80 levels, and branching out on abilities and really creating a lore and story with this guy that I don't think a lot of people expected back in the day. And that doesn't just happen from, oh, this was a cool pack in for my PS5. Like, that comes from that capturing a player base and capturing that gameplay style for a wider audience to a point that, hey, we can make this work and make this its own thing and make him become a face of the product and the brand, which has been a nice change of pace. Because I feel, again, I grew up in that time, PS2 days, N64 or whatever, but I grew up with those mascot platformers and hey, you look at this box and you immediately think of this character, this character, this character, because they were the face of that brand. They were the platforming games of that brand. They were your Crash Bandicoots, your Spyros, your Sly Coopers, RIP, your Mario 64, like Banjo and Conquer and Donkey Kong 64. Like, those were the tentpole games back then. And yeah, time's gone on. We're on to shooters and big God of War type experiences and cinematic Last of Us experiences and all this and that. But I don't think you can really lose where you came from and the games you started with back in the day. There will always be that nostalgic pull. There will always be an urge to return to that, I feel. So I think that'll be about it. We're at 40 minutes here. I've rambled on long enough. Like the old days. I highly recommend checking out last week's episode if you haven't. Kyle had really good talk on Arco. Sort of a new indie game sweeping the scene right now. More World of Warcraft talk and Gamescom catch up and talk on Indiana Jones and its non exclusivity anymore. Um, he should be streaming this week. Check out him, twitch.tv/Kyle the Fish. I will probably. I have a real job now, and I'm off Mondays, or this Monday for holiday, so I'll probably be streaming some WoW or Call of Duty beta, or just making more WoW videos and practicing on that on YouTube and TikTok, so check those out. Um, all of our socials can be found, if you're watching on video version, all around. Badlands Backlogs on Twitter, Twitch, the Backlogs on TikTok. Kyle's Kyle the Fish 30 everywhere, so be sure to give him some love and shout him out for his stuff because it's arguably way better than mine. His video quality is way better, what he produces and puts out is way better. So I've been honored to have him along for the ride the past couple episodes, 20 episodes at least now. We're just getting better from here. We are on the verge of really cool things that I mentioned and hinted at before, and that's all done with the help of you guys. So, any like, comment, share, joining in on the conversation, interacting with us on Twitter, interacting with us on Twitch, all of that helps make that a reality and helps us bring cooler, exclusive stuff to you guys in the future. So, thanks for all the love so far. I know we're still on the early days of trying to build a community, and hopefully that happens sooner than later. But we can't just make that happen overnight. So, till next week, this has been the Download Queue, episode 33. Ramblo-matic, optional, rambling, super journey of Call of Duty and World of Warcraft and AstroBot. We'll be back next week, next Sunday, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, with a regular episode, hopefully, catching up and sharing the love. Till then, be good to each other, happy gaming, enjoy gaming, and shout out the developers you love. It's been toxic recently on Twitter, and people continuing that fight, but show them love, show them care, show them compassion. These are games that people spend 50, 40 plus hours a week on, 52 days, 52 weeks a year, like nonstop hours upon hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of hours of their life emptied into to bring you something you will experience for 8 to 10 hours, 20 hours. So spread the love, spread the joy, spread the happiness. We'll be back next week. Thanks for stopping by.